This conference will now be recorded.
In yesterday's session, we were discussing about what is a replication controller, what is a replica set, and what is a daemon set. We discussed. Now, let's try to understand what is deployment. What is deployment? We'll try to understand. So, as I already discussed yesterday, when I am creating a replica set or replication controller, the replication controller and replica set is creating the pods. So, I am deploying my applications in this Kubernetes cluster. So you already know the flow. API server, what API server does, what scheduler does. I know need to explain again and again. Now I created a replication controller or replica set. Now that replication controller, that RC, this is my cluster. This is my cluster. That RC, that replication controller, is it creating and managing the pods, that RC or RS, whatever it is? So it is creating the pods. It is creating the pods and managing your pods. Inside the pod, you have a container. Inside the pod, you have a container. So inside the pod, you have a container. Now there is a change in that code. Let's consider inside that pod, you have a container. Pod is a wrapper of container. We already discussed. Now this is my container. Now this container is created out of, let's say, this image. Let's say one version. That can be any registry. Don't consider always it is Docker Hub. Can I have the images in any registry like Nexus, JFrog, ECR? Also, yes. Now, this is running. This is running. This is running in my Kubernetes cluster. In my Kubernetes cluster, this is running with same image. Let's say I have two replicas. Now, let's say the developers, the other side developers, the developers are modifying the code. This is developers. These guys are developers. They are modifying the code. So they are modifying their code, and where they will maintain that code, you already know. Now you can understand the importance of CI/CD. What is CI? What is CD? All these things. Now the developers are modifying the code. They will commit the code. They will push the code to the SCM. What is SCM? They will commit or push that code to the SCM. What is SCM? Source code management. Source code management. We have a lot of like Git, Bitbucket. So like this. As a DevOps engineer, do you need to familiar with this one also? Because you are the one who is going to create and manage the SCM repositories for the development teams. You need to be familiar with what is Git, how to configure, what is branch, what is tag, how to push, how to resolve, all the Git related stuff. Now the developers are modifying the code. Now that code I need to deploy in my deployment servers. We already discussed what is virtualized deployment, what is containerized deployment, what is physical deployment, the traditional deployment. Now I am not following traditional deployment, and also I am not following virtualized deployment. Now I am using container deployment. Do I need to deploy my application as a container? Whatever code the developers are writing as a containers? Yes. Now, for that source code, are you going to build a image? Are you going to build a image, Docker image? You are going to build one image, Docker image, but you don't want any manual intervention, manual process. Can I follow DevOps methodology, DevOps process, continuous integration, continuously integrating your changes, your code, executing the unit test cases, creating application artifacts like that. Now using CI/CD, like Jenkins tool, can I continuously integrate and compile the code, run the sonar scans like static code analysis, run the test cases, and if everything is proper, can I create a Java artifact, that source code artifact, and also Docker artifacts like Docker image, and I will maintain that Docker image in the Docker repositories, in the Docker registries. That registry can be ECR, that can be Nexus, that can be JFrog, like that. In real time, are you going to maintain in the Docker Hub? As I already told hundreds times, no. Now, Jenkins will take that code. I don't want to do it manually, so I can do it using Jenkins. Can I do all these things using Jenkins automation, Jenkins pipelines, using continuous integration, continuous deployment model? Yes. Now, I have a new version of the image. Let's say I have created a new version of the image. I have a new version of the image now. Now, to release that change, whatever enhancements development team has done, whatever bug fixes development team has done, I want to deploy that. So if it is a Kubernetes, I am running my application as a pods, as a containers. Now, do I need to recreate these containers, pods with the latest package where I have a latest code, latest application code as well? Yes. Now, if I am using a replication controller, guys, as I already told, can I do this deployment using Jenkins also? If I have here in my Jenkins server as a Jenkins user, can I install kubectl? Can I install kubectl? I switch to the Jenkins user. Can I install kubectl here? And can I configure that kubectl? Which means, can I create a .kube directory in which user home directory? In Jenkins user home directory, because your Jenkins pipeline will be executed as a Jenkins user in Jenkins user home directory, not in your like EC2 user or Ubuntu user home directory. It should be in Jenkins user home directory. If I do like this, in my pipeline, if I execute kubectl apply, does Jenkins will connect to your control plane for applying that manifest, Kubernetes manifest? Yes. If required, can I maintain that manifest also as part of my SCM itself, Kubernetes manifest, like deployment YMLs, service YMLs, whatever, for that application, deployment YML, service YML, whatever you want to have. Now, does these YMLs also will part of your Jenkins workspace? Can I execute kubectl apply with this folder name or file name from Jenkins pipeline itself? Because that is also part of your Jenkins workspace. You are cloning that. I can do like this. But if I am using replication set, replication controller, even though I updated my image tag like this, in my replication controller manifest or replica set manifest, even though I updated and apply, do you think does these parts will be deleted and recreated with this instead of this image? Does parts will be created with this one? No. So what needs to be done? Do I need to delete that completely, replica set or replication controller? If I delete, does that parts gets deleted? Does this parts gets deleted when I delete? That parts gets deleted when I delete? Yes. Now, let's say during this process, I have a service. My end users are other dependent application. Maybe internal applications or end users are accessing via that service. Does that service has any pods which can serve the traffic? Maybe internal pods, other applications, other pod, another microservice is trying to reach this microservice, or external customers are accessing that application. Does this service have any endpoints to serve the traffic? No. So do we have a downtime? Do we have a downtime now? Yes. Now I need to delete and again apply. I need to delete and again apply. But I don't want to do that. I don't want any downtime. Is that possible with replication controller or replica set? No. That might be possible. But instead of updating that replica set, do I need to completely create a new replica set or new replication controller? Instead of updating that, can I create another replica set for same application with a different tags? But in that, do I have a both old as well as new? Do I have a old as well as new pods? If I create another replica set for that application, think guys, I'm saying I don't want to update. Can I create another replica set or replication controller using that image, the version 2 image, another controller? I am not saying I don't want to update. I can create another one. So you will have a both. The service will point to all these four. If this one also has the same labels and this one also has the same labels, service will point to all the four. But once these are ready, you can delete this old replication set completely. This way also you can do that. But do we have a problem here? Do I need to have more resources in my cluster? Yes. So instead of doing that way, there is a one more concept called a deployment. Kubernetes deployment. Guys, I am manually explaining all these things. This Kubernetes concepts. I am not explaining with Jenkins because you already know Jenkins. What is Jenkins? What is pipeline? Now, whatever I am doing manually, will I able to do that using Jenkins? Like applying that manifest, creating images, pushing the images. But now, one use case I want to cover here. In your Jenkins pipeline, you are building image like this. Let's consider, just to give an example, you are building like this without any tag. What will be the tag? Always :latest. But I want to maintain all the versions of my images. Can I use some dynamic behavior like in Jenkins? Can I use something like this? Maybe build number or commit ID, branch name hyphen commit ID, like that. Build number. Now, in your manifest, let's say you have this manifest. In your Kubernetes manifest in your version control system. Let's say you have this manifest in your version control system like this. You have in manifest in your version control system like this. Something like this you have in your version control system. So even though you are building this image, even though you are pushing that image, if this is my manifest, if I am applying this manifest, even though you are applying, do you think the latest images, the new images with whatever build numbers you are tagging, will be deployed if you have something like this in your manifest? No. In that case, how can I do that? How can I make sure whenever I am creating a new image, that image needs to be applied or deployed in Kubernetes? What needs to be done? I think I have already explained. I have given assignment also in Docker Compose. So in my version control system, can I have some placeholder like this? some placeholder. In my version control system, I will have this file like this. In my pipeline, before I execute kubectl apply, can I update this placeholder with whatever tag I want to update using some kind of a SCD command on the fly? On the fly within your Jenkins, you can update before you apply. Before you apply. Before you are executing kubectl apply, can I use that SCD to update something like that? These type of things no one will teach basically, but you already know what is SCD, what is Jenkins, what is Kubernetes. Based on the requirements, do you need to apply all this knowledge? How can I make sure as per the given requirement, how can I do this? Do you need to understand all the concepts and apply that concept? Because these are concepts. If you by heart always like this, if there is any new requirement, will you able to apply, will I able to create or apply a pipeline as per that requirement if you by heart only this? No. So you need to understand what is Jenkins, what is Kubernetes. If I am doing in Jenkins, how can I do this in pipeline? If there is a different requirement, based on whatever knowledge you already gained from so far, from the beginning, you need to apply that knowledge and implement the solution. That is what the actual learning is. If you by heart execute this command like that, if you by heart, it will be very difficult to survive in software. Not only as a DevOps, sorry, not only as a DevOps engineer, whether you are a developer, whether you are a infrastructure engineer, you need to understand the concepts and apply. No hard coding, no butty by hearting. Because these are like a requirement. So do you need to apply the requirement today, this requirement, tomorrow you will get another requirement. You need to implement that requirement as per whatever knowledge you have. Is everyone clear? If I want to do like this using Jenkins, how can I do? Continuous integration and continuous deployment to my Kubernetes clusters or Docker clusters. If you are not at all using Docker or Kubernetes, do you guys already know how to deploy that WAR file into your virtual machines directly using in virtualized environment? You guys already done while discussing Jenkins. That is virtual deployment, because AWS is not following the traditional, because whatever EC2 instances we are giving, creating, is it a virtual machines or is it a physical machine? It's a virtual machine on top of AWS data center. It's a virtualized deployment. Now we have a problem with this replication controller and replica set. Let me show you. Now let me connect to my Kubernetes cluster. Let me connect to my Kubernetes cluster. Guys, if you understand the concept and practice that concept more, it will be very interesting and it will be very simple also. You need to have that, I mean to say, a zeal to learn something new, do something new. So if you keep practicing understanding these concepts by going through the recordings multiple times, you will have a lot of interest to learn also, and you will able to understand in detail how it is going to work. Now I have my 3-node Kubernetes cluster. Let's say I deployed some application in this Kubernetes. Maybe let me delete this. Let me demonstrate with a new application. Let me demonstrate with new application, because I don't have a new version of the image for this. I don't have a new version of the image for this. Let's say this application itself, whether I am using RC or RS, that doesn't matter. Now let's say I have this version of the image. Now let me deploy for the first time. I am deploying this for the first time. Because I don't have this, I delete it. I am deploying this for the first time. Now is my parts are created with that specification? Is my pods are created as per the current specification? If I describe my pod, you can see, is these pods are created as per the specification? Is it using that version of the image? That pod has this container, it is using that version of the image. Now, let's say there is a change in the code. I have created a new image also. I push that image already to the registry. Now, I want to deploy that latest code. Let's say this one has another tag. Now I want to deploy, let's say, another version of the application, whatever is available. Let's say if I have image tag called 3 or 2 like that, let's see. So I don't have 3, let's see something, whatever is available. Oh, I have image with colon tag 2. Now let's say I want to deploy that one. Now I am changing the image tag manually, but building the image, pushing the image, and also updating this manifest and deploying this manifest also, can I automate? Continuous integration, continuous deployment using Jenkins, whatever I am doing manually, yes. Now I am applying like this. Now if you see, is my parts are getting recreated? Even though it is saying configured, is my parts are getting recreated? Is my parts are getting deleted and recreated with that new version of the image with a new specification? If I describe my pod, can I still see it is using old specification, old image? If you see, is it still using old one? Does your parts gets updated if there is a change in your replica set specification or replication controller specification? If there is a change, is your parts are going to be recreated? If there is a change in your replication controller specification, replica set, no. But if I delete this part now, whatever parts comes now, the new part, does that new part will be created using that? Because I applied, yes. But this is not going to work. Instead of doing this way, can I use another concept called a deployment? Now what I need to do, I need to delete and apply. Before I apply, I need to delete and again I will apply. But do we have a downtime? As I already discussed, yes. Now I don't want that one. Is Kubernetes is offering any other option, any other API or object where I can deploy, where I can update my pods, update my deployments? Yes. So in Kubernetes, there is a one more service called deployment. Guys, we already discussed what is daemon set. I hope you are already clear what is daemon set. I no need to explain again. What type of applications we will deploy as a daemon set, we already discussed. Now let's understand deployment. In Kubernetes, deployment is the recommended way to deploy your pod or replica set. So even though I am creating a deployment, internally what it is going to create? Deployment will create a replica set. Replica set will manage what? Replica set will manage the pods. I am creating a deployment. Deployment will create a replica set. Replica set will manage the pods like this. Why deployment is recommended way in Kubernetes? Because one thing, deployment will deploy a replica set. Most important thing, can I update my pods? If I am using deployments, Can I update my pods, which means pods gets updated if there is any change? Does pods gets recreated or updated? Yes. And also, is it possible for me to roll back to the older versions? Let's say I am creating a deployment. Deployment is creating a replica set. Replica set is managing the pods. Now, if I try to update my deployment, it is going to create another revision of replica set, kind of a revision 2. This is revision 1. Now, when I'm creating for the first time, this replica set will be created, the parts will be managed like this. Now, if I update my deployment, I updated my image tag. Does deployment will create another replica set like this? Another replica set like this? And first, it will create one pod, new version. Then is it going to remove one old pod like this, like a rolling updates? It is going to first create one new pod. It is going to delete one old pod. Now, if someone is accessing in this phase, if someone is accessing in this phase via service, do we still have a pods to serve the traffic in this phase? We have still we have pods to serve the traffic. Once this is ready, is it going to create another version, new version of the pod again, another replica? Then is it going to terminate this one? But here also, do we still have a pods? Do we still have a pods to serve the traffic? Your new pod, new pod, yes. So one more use case here. One more use case here. If something is wrong with this latest change, your latest containers, your latest pod containers, your application is not working properly. There are defects. There are defects. There are some issues. Can I roll back to the previous revision? Can I roll back to the previous revision, which means can I again roll back so that old pods get come again? Kind of a control Z. Kind of a control Z. So I can roll back to the previous revision. So can I achieve this rollbacks and rollouts using deployments? I can update the pods. Can I achieve rollbacks and rollouts using deployments? Yes. And also, can I scale up, scale down the pods if required? The way we are scaling up the replication controller replica set. Similarly, I can scale up, scale down all these pods. Now, do I have all these features if I directly go for a replication controller or replica set? No. So that's why it is recommended. It is recommended, but is it mandatory? Is it mandatory? It's not mandatory. But your requirement is like this. Your requirement is like this. Then can I go with this deployment? So that is how deployment works. Before I explain deployment, let me explain deployment strategies. We have some strategies in the deployment. We have some strategies in the deployment. Yes, very, very important interview level also. Is everyone clear at a definition what is deployment? If someone asks what is deployment in Kubernetes, will you able to explain 2-3 lines at least? Deployment is the recommended way to deploy applications in Kubernetes because there should be something. Don't stop like deployment is recommended way to deploy the applications. But why? Why it is recommended? Do you need to explain that one also? Why it is recommended? We have some advanced features in deployment. What are those advanced features? Can I update my pod templates? Can I update my pod templates? Can I roll back, roll out, roll back, roll out? Can I do the zero downtime deployments? Zero downtime, which means without bringing my application down, I can update my application containers. Now, in deployment, we have some strategies. Deployment strategies. deployment strategies. One is recreate, another one is rolling update. This is also important. Deployment, this Kubernetes deployment has two types of strategies, recreate and rolling update. So what do you mean by recreate? First, let me explain recreate. Now, this is my first revision. This is my first revision. Let's consider I deployed first time. I deployed using some image, maybe that new version of the image, the first release. Now let's say there is a change in my code. I want to deploy another version. Let's consider this tag I want to deploy or some other tag. Now, if the deployment strategy is recreate, what is going to happen if you understand this diagram? If it is a recreate, is it going to first, when you are updating that part specification, which means when you are updating the deployment, what is going to happen if you see this diagram? If the deployment strategy is recreate, is it going to terminate old pods? Is it going to terminate old pods first? It is going to completely terminate old replicas. But in this phase, do we have any applications or any pods available to serve the traffic now? Do you have any applications or any pods available to serve your traffic for your service? No. Then first it will delete old pods, old replicas. Then is it going to create a new replicas? It is going to start deploying the new pods. In this phase, if someone is accessing, do you have any application which can respond? Do you have any pod which can serve your traffic here? In this phase, no. So it is going to delete old replicas, old revision. Then it is going to create a new revision if the deployment strategy is what? Recreate. If the deployment strategy is recreate, it is going to first delete old version of application. Then it is going to create a new pods. So in this phase, your application is down. So again, do you have a downtime if I am using deployment with strategy as recreate? Yes. Deployment with strategy as a recreate, you have a downtime. And again, do you have this rollback option? Suppose this is not working, your pods are scheduled, but there are some defects in this code, in this new version. Can I roll back to the previous revision? Again, can I simply execute some command so that these parts will be terminated? These parts will be terminated. Again, you have a parts with old specification. This is recreate. This is recreate deployment strategy. Is everyone clear what is deployment and what is the deployment strategy called recreate in Kubernetes? Is everyone clear how it works? These are very, very important in the interview perspective also. Now, the way we have a recreate, we have one more deployment strategy called what? Rolling deployment or rolling update. Rolling deployment or rolling update. So there are several types of deployment strategies. You can take advantage of deploying on your requirement, on your goal. There are different types of deployment strategies. One is rolling update, another one is recreate. Now, the rolling deployment is the default deployment strategy for Kubernetes, which means when I am creating a deployment, I have not mentioned what is the deployment strategy. What is the default deployment strategy? If you don't mention also, what is the default? Rolling deployment. Okay. Now, but the problem here, even though you are not defining deployment, that is rolling, but what happens, like in the default behavior, first it will create like this, but will it wait for some time? Will it have enough? Will it give enough time to this part to get settled down? Will it give enough time to this part to get settled down and start the container? If it is default, even though you are not passing anything, it is going to follow like this. But is it going to give enough time for this pod and this container to get settled down? Your container will take some time to come up, right? Your application may take some time, maybe 30 seconds, 40 seconds to fully ready. It will not give sufficient time. It will create this pod. Even though this is not completely ready, your container is still coming up. Is it going to terminate old pod and is it going to create another pod like this? Yes, that is default. Even though you are using default, it is going to work like that. But do I need to customize the default behavior saying that once this pod is scheduled, maybe wait for 30 seconds. Don't go to this phase immediately. Don't go to this phase immediately. Don't terminate this immediately. Wait for 30 seconds or 60 seconds. So wait for 30 seconds or 60 seconds like that. I can customize. So if I wait for 30 seconds or 60 seconds like that, does that within that time, does this parts get settled down, which means that application in this pod container, will it be ready so that it can terminate the old one? So even though that is default, you can customize. You need to customize. So what is the rolling deployment strategy here, right? It works slowly. It works slowly, one by one, one by one, replacing the parts of previous version of your application with the parts of new version without any downtime. If I am using rolling deployment strategy, replacing the parts of previous version of your application with parts of new version of application without downtime. If you see this diagram, is it first terminating these two like that? Is it first terminating? No. First it is creating. Is it creating new version of the pod? Once this is ready, is it terminating one of the old pod and is it creating one of the new pod like that? Yes. So in this phase also, do we still have a pods to serve the traffic for your service? Is your service will be able to route the traffic to this pod as well as this pod in this phase? Once this is ready, does your service will route the traffic to this pod and the other pod like this one? Yes. Once this is also ready, is it going to terminate another one? So do you have any downtime here? Do you have any downtime here if I am using deployment strategy as rolling update? No. So because of these features, it is recommended. Now, first let me demonstrate with recreate option. Now same application, I don't want to deploy as a replica set or replication controller. Can I use this as a deployment instead of replication controller? Can I use this as a deployment instead of replica set also? Can I use this as a deployment? Now, let me do that. I am going to do this. File name doesn't matter, but what you are creating or what you are defining in that file matters here. Now, instead of replication controller, can I use deployment or replica? Instead of replica set also, can I use deployment kind? Kind is deployment. But what is the API version for deployment? What is the API version for deployment? The API version for deployment is apps/v1. Apps/v1. Now here, whatever name, that name doesn't matter. Can I give something like this? Maven web app deployment, or just Maven web app also fine. Maven web app also fine. Anything is fine here. This is my deployment name. The deployment gets created in which namespace? The deployment and respective replica sets and parts gets created in which namespace? test. So how many replicas it is going to create? 2. If I don't mention number of replicas, how many? 1. Now here, is it going to define allow like this, defining the selectors? If I am using deployment also, is it allow me to define like this? No. Here you need to use same as a daemon set or same as replica set. Either you need to use match labels or match expressions. So something like this, match labels, equality based selector. Now here, can I define additionally the strategy? Can I define additionally the strategy, deployment strategy? There is a concept called strategy. Strategy. If I don't mention this strategy, what is the default strategy? What is the default deployment strategy? Rolling update. Rolling update. Okay. Now let me demonstrate this with recreate first. Strategy type. Strategy type. Recreate. Strategy type. Recreate. First I am demonstrating this one. Guys, if you by heart manifest, you cannot understand. This is sample. This is sample. Sample deployment manifest. I am using this image, this many containers. But as per your requirement, can you use whatever images you want to deploy as part of that pods, your actual images instead of this sample application? So this is just a sample. Don't by heart line by line like this. You need to understand what is this template. That is part template. Whatever I am going to create, does this deployment will create 3 replicas or 3 pods using this part template, kind of a 3 copies of these pods? Yes. So this can be as per your requirement. These pods can be as per your requirement, whatever containers you want to have. Understand the concept. Don't by heart anything here. Now the type. What is the type? I can say here recreate. But in that document, there is a indentation problem. Can I define like this recreate? Is it going to allow like this? In that PDF, in that PowerPoint, there is a indentation. Can I, do you think, can I define like this? No. So that is a child of strategy, something like this. That is a child of strategy, something like this. This is my deployment. So let me delete. I don't want to use this. I don't want to use this RC or RS, whatever it is. Whatever I already deployed, I don't want, because I am not able to achieve that features, whatever I am getting. So I don't want to deploy like this. Guys, since I am explaining the concept, I am explaining one after the other. But in actual applications, are you going to follow same thing? Since Balaji sir has created first pod, so let me create a pod. Then since Balaji sir has created RC, let me create RC like that? No. So which will match your requirement? Whatever. You can directly go for a deployment, or you can directly go for RS or RC based on your requirement. Now here, this is my manifest file. This is my manifest file. Now what kind of Kubernetes resource I am creating now? Deployment with replicas 2, strategy as recreate. These are the things. Now as of now, do I have any deployments in that namespace which I want to deploy? Do I have any deployments as of now? No. So this service I have not deleted. This service I have not deleted. So service is there. But does that service has any endpoints, any parts as of now? No. Now let me apply this. kubectl apply -f that maven web app. Guys, a dry run if you want to do, you can do all these things. I no need to mention again. There is a problem, no matches for kind deployment in version app slash double v1. There is a typo. There is a typo in that manifest. So here v1. Now, while creating a deployment, is it going to follow the deployment strategy, guys? Whether you are using rolling update or recreate, is it going to follow the deployment strategy? While creating for the first time, is pods will be created one after the other? When you are creating the pods for the first time, even though you are using rolling update, do you think the pods will be created one after the other for the first time when you are deploying? No. But that strategy will be applicable when you are updating. When you are updating the deployment, then that strategy will be applicable. Now I have a deployment. Let me execute kubectl get all. Now, do I have a deployment with this name? As per my manifest, whatever name I have given, do I have a deployment created in my cluster in this namespace? Now, if you observe internally, is this deployment internally created a replica set also? Is the deployment internally created a replica set? Now, is these parts are managed by that replica set? Now, we can see the revision also. We can see the history, kubectl rollout status. These are something like this, kubectl rollout status deployment. My deployment name, excuse me. What is my deployment name? kubectl rollout, kubectl rollout deployment, kubectl rollout status deployment name. What is my deployment name? I have given my deployment name like this. Maven web app. Now, why I am getting this error? I want to see the status of the deployment using this command. Rollout status deployment. This deployment status I want to see. Why I am getting this error? Namespace. So where I have that namespace, where I have that deployment, in which namespace I have that deployment? In this namespace. Now I can see a message saying that rollout is successful, deployment successfully rolled out, which means, do I have any issues with that deployment parts? Is my parts are in this state? This will be shown, the deployment successfully rolled out. If it is like this only, it will be shown. But if that parts are in pending state, crash loop backup, or any other status, will it show failed? This deployment is failed like that. If I execute this one, yes. Now, the way I can see the status, can I see the history also? The way I have a status, can I see the history? How many times that deployment has created or revisioned? Deployment revision history. Now, how many revisions I can see? As of now, when I use kubectl rollout history, deployment name, one revision. Why only one revision? Because just now we created. Is the deployment got updated with any changes as of now? No. So the change revision. Now, if I want to see the template of this revision, if I want to see more details about this revision, part template of this revision, there is one more option, hyphen revision 1. Now, when I'm using that option along with history command, when I'm using that revision number, can I see the part template? What is the part template for that revision? What was the part template used to create that revision? where exactly all these details are getting maintained is your Kubernetes deployment object is maintaining all this information, revisions information, this part templates information in etcd. Yes. Now let's take that use case now. I am able to access my application. Will I able to access my application using that service? I have a service also with same labels, whatever I have used. I use those as a selectors in my service. Now, is my service has endpoints now? Is that service has endpoints now? Is it pointing to those two ports? Now I can access using this port 31518. 31518. So let me use that whatever machine wherever I have opened that port 31. What is that port? From outside 31518. My application context. Now, am I getting response from one of the replica, one of the pod 10.40.0.1, one of the replica? Because my application is running as a pod container, I am getting that pod IP. Now let's say there is a change in my application. Just to show you what is happening in the background, I am connecting to the same machine where I have a kubectl, guys. Don't take it differently. I am just opening one more SSH terminal here. I am just opening one more SSH terminal here. I am just opening one more SSH terminal here. Maybe let me show side by, instead of side by side, let me show below and above. Let me show below and above. I've done vertically already. Let me do it horizontally. I'm just opening another SSH terminal. That's it. I'm just opening another SSH terminal. I'm connecting to same machine where I have a kubectl, just to show what is happening in the background. When I am updating, what is happening in the background. Now let me connect to same machine. This SSH, I will SSH to that machine where I have a kubectl. Where I have a kubectl. I am SSHing to same machine. Now I will use one Linux command called watch. I am watching my pods. kubectl get pods -n test -ns. This watch command is Linux command, guys. So what this watch does is this command will be repeatedly executed. Like every 2 seconds, this command gets executed, and I can see what is there. Every 2 seconds, this kubectl get pods commands will be executed using that watch. Now my pods are running as of now. I'm able to access my application also. I'm able to access my application also because my pods are running. Via service, I am able to access. Via service, I am able to access that application. Now, let's say there is a new code. There is a new code. The new image is created. Now, can I update my deployment? Imperatively also I can do that. Imperatively also I can do that. What do you mean by imperative? By executing command itself directly. Can I do something like this? Can I use something like this? This is one sample. This is one sample command. Can I do same thing? Imperatively also kubectl set image deployment. This is your deployment name. This is your deployment name. Whatever I have highlighted, this is your deployment name. Within that deployment, this is your container name. This image. Imperatively also, can I update the image of the deployment for that container? Something like this by executing. This is my deployment name, sample, container name, image. I can do something like this for my application also. That is imperatively. kubectl set image. Then deployment, set image, deployment. What is my deployment name? Maven web app. Container name. What is my container name? If you don't know, can I describe that pod and see, or can I see the manifest also? In manifest, I have mentioned the container name, same name has been used. I can see in the manifest, or I can describe my pod and see also. So this is my container name. Somewhere we have that name, but in the manifest you only gave that name. Name of the container is this one. For that container, you want to update the image. Can I do something like this? Whatever registry, that maven web application, let's say I want to deploy this version of the image now. Can I do it manually also, imperatively, and this namespace again, because that is in the namespace? I can do like this. Now, there is a one more option here, record equals to true. What is this option? What is this option? What exactly it does? When I see the revision history, am I able to see any change cause as of now? Let me clear the screen. I am executing that history. kubectl rollout history deployment, the deployment name. Here, am I able to see any change cause here? No. So while applying or while executing a command, if I use this option, can I see this complete command under the change cause for that revision? Now the revision 2 will be created. Can I see this complete command under the change cause if I use this option? Record true also if I use, can I see this complete command under the change cause? What caused the change? Imperatively you can do this, or declaratively also can I do this? Which means declarative way in the sense, can I update my manifest, the deployment manifest? Now can I take this one, image, whatever image I have, but do you need to make sure this image exists in the registry? Now currently this version of the image is used. Now let me see what image I have. Instead of 2, they have a version with the 3, 4, like that. In that, maybe any version, whatever you have. 3, I have a 13 only, there is no 3. Let's see if I have a 4. Any version, guys, any version. I don't have a 4 also. 1 is there, 17, any version of the tag. 2 is there, 1.0 is there. Okay, let me use maybe 15, 16, whatever it is. Maybe let me use this tag 15. Now I am updating my image. I am just updating in my manifest, but will it reflect automatically? Does that parts gets created? No. Now let me minimize this. Now you observe this, guys. Now you observe this. Now you observe this, what is happening. Let me open another shell also so that you can easily understand. Let me open one more shell also, where I will show the service endpoints. Where I will show the service endpoints. So same machine I am connecting. Same machine I am connecting, that master machine only, where I have a kubectl. Here, before updating, let me show you. Watch kubectl get ep endpoints. Endpoints. Now, as of now, can I see these two? One second. Can I see these two IPs? Basically, the current pod IPs as endpoints for that service. The current pods. You can see these pods. You can see these pods are showing as a endpoints. I have not yet done the changes. I just updated my manifest. Now I have not applied. Now when I apply this one, that manifest, what is my deployment strategy now? What is my deployment strategy now? In my manifest, what is my deployment strategy? Recreate. Now, if it is a recreate, does this current pods gets deleted to create a new version of the pods? Does this current pods gets deleted when I apply this one? Is it going to delete this current version of the pods to create a new version of the pods? If these pods are deleted, do we have a service endpoints? Do we have these details in the service for some time? No. Now, during that process, if someone is accessing internally or externally, do we have a outage? Do we have a downtime? Yes. Let me show that. You observe all the screens. You observe this screen as well as this screen here also. If you see, is my application is down. Here I should have executed watch, guys. I should have executed watch. I have not executed with watch. That's why I was not able to see here. I just executed this one. So that's fine. But if you see, there was a downtime. There was a downtime. And here, if you observe, your IPs also got deleted and recreated. I mean to say endpoints. Now, new application is deployed. Here, I should have used that record option. I should have used that record option. That is fine. Even though you don't use, that is fine. Now you see the revision, you see the history. Now how many revisions are there? How many revisions are there for the deployment? Two revisions. Two revisions are there. Now let me drag this. Two revisions are there. If you see kubectl get all -n test -ns, if you see why there are two replica sets, why there are two replica sets. One replica set, it is saying 0, desired 0, current 0, ready 0. Another replica set, it is saying desired 2, current 2, ready 2. What is this replica set? Is it a replica set of first revision? Is it a replica set of first revision, that old revision? So is it it is scaled down the pods, it is scaled down the pods, but is it completely deleted that revision information? What was the part specification of that information? No. Another replica set got created. Now do I have these parts from the new replica set, that new revision? Yes. Now if I want to see this replica set information, this revision information, can I use that number no hyphen revision option along with history revision 2? So is this was the part template for that revision? Is this is the part template for that revision 2, whatever we deployed now? And if it is a revision 1, can I see this was the part template of that revision 1? Now if something is wrong with these parts, your parts are running, but there are small defects. There are small defects. Your containers are running, but there are some issues, defects. So you don't have a time to fix that defects. Can I simply roll back to the previous revision? I don't want my customers to be impacted because of the defects. Can I roll back to the previous revision if required? So what is that command? What is that command? Now here, let me use watch now. Even though I am rolling back, does this rollback also fall, use that recreate strategy? Yes. Now, how to roll back? There is a command like this. There is a command like this. Roll out, undo, undo, undo in like control Z, like a control Z. kubectl rollout, undo, deployment, your deployment name, your deployment name. To which revision you want to roll back? -2 revision, to which revision you want to roll back? Let's say If I don't mention this revision, how many revisions it will go back? If I don't mention this at all, if I don't mention from here, how many revisions it will go back? Let's say current revision is 3. Current revision is 3. If I don't mention this one, to which revision it will go back? Is it go back to the second revision? But let's say the current revision is 3, but I want to directly go back to the first revision. Can I use this option? -2 revision, to which revision I want to roll back? Yes. Now, let me do that. Let me do that by accessing the application also. By accessing the application also. Let me do that. Now, I am able to access application, but I want to roll back. Can I do something like this? Roll out, instead of history, can I use undo? Undo deployment, my deployment name. If I want to record this as a change cause, if I want to record this as a change cause, can I use this option, hyphen record true, this option, so that under the change cause I can see that one. Now, let me access the application also now. One second. One second. What I have done. I need to take advantage of this one. Let me. I want to properly align so that I can show you side by side also, but that is not happening. One second, just give me a second. This is hiding somewhere that I want to drag up. Let me take. One second. I'll open this again. I'll open so that you can easily understand what is happening in the background. Okay. Now, let me connect to same machines. So I will show you when I am doing this rollback also what is happening. I will show you. So that you can easily understand. I am connecting to same machine where I have a kubectl in these all these terminals also. Now here, let me watch kubectl get pods -o wide -n that namespace. This watch is one Linux command. Every 2 seconds that commands get executed. Now here I will watch the endpoints. kubectl get ep -n test -ns. Now these are the current pods 10.40.0.1, 10.38.0.2. Now I am trying to roll back. I am trying to roll back. Now let me access the application also. Now here, let me access the application also. Here. Now my application is down. Now I am doing a rollback. I am doing a rollback, but my deployment strategy is recreate. You see here, these parts will be terminated. This will be removed, and again it will recreate a old parts when I execute this command. Okay, this record. Okay, some options sometimes it won't take this one. Let me leave this. For some commands this record will not take. I will explain that later. Now without that record option, let me execute this one. You observe, is my application is down, is parts are deleted, old parts, is am I getting a new parts again, it is getting created, do I have some downtime when I am rolling back also? Yes. So this is recreate strategy. This is recreate strategy. Now revision, when I see the revision rollout history, I want to see, when I see the revision history, now third revision is created. I mean to say third revision is created, but is that revision is created using first revision part template? This third revision is created, but is this revision is created using first revision part template? Yes. And also if you observe, by default, how many revision histories deployment is maintaining by default in Kubernetes? How many revisions of history it is maintaining by default? Only 2. Now, is it possible for me to increase that revision history limit? I want to maintain like last 5 revisions or last 10 revisions like that. Is it possible for me to increase that revision history limit? Yes. So in your in your manifest, in your pod manifest, you can use one more thing. In your deployment manifest, you can use one more thing. Let me close this for better visibility. In your deployment manifest, I can use one more field. What is that field? Revision history limit. Now if I say revision history limit as 5 or 10, now let's say I have make it as 5. So how many revision histories will be maintained by your Kubernetes for this deployment? 5 revisions. Last 5 revisions. Now, is everyone clear what is deployment and deployment with this strategy, how it works, and what is this revision history limit? Is everyone clear now? Yes. But if I am using this deployment with the strategy as recreate, when I am updating my deployments or when I am rolling back my deployments, do we have a downtime outage? Yes. If I don't want that to happen, instead of this one, what option I can use? What strategy I can use? Instead of this, I can go with rolling update. So let me show that. Let me go with rolling update. This is just a file name, nothing else. Now instead of default, I mean to say recreate, can I go for a rolling update? Even though I don't mention here, what is the default strategy? Rolling update. But can I customize? Can I customize like this? Can I customize like this? Like how many parts can be down when I am doing the update? Like this. Strategy with all these customization. With all these customization. So I can do something like this. Customization. Strategy rolling update. What do you mean by this max search, max unavailable? So whenever you are updating your deployment, maximum how many parts cannot be available? Unavailable. Let's say I have 2 pods. Currently I have 2 pods. If I say max unavailable as 1, so what does it mean? Out of these two, maximum how many pods can be down when you are updating the deployment? If I say there are 2 replicas, if there are 2 replicas, if I say maximum unavailable as 1, when I am updating the deployment, maximum how many pods can be deleted when we are updating? Only 1. If maximum unavailable is 1, does it mean do you have one more pod still available? That can be new pod or old pod, that doesn't matter. That can be new pod or old pod, that doesn't matter. Which means do we still have some pods during that update process? Whether that is a new pod, whether that's a old pod, you will have one pod during the update process. So that is the meaning of max unavailable. What do you mean by max surge? These type of questions also they will ask in the interview. What do you mean by max surge, max unavailable in this rolling update strategy? Unavailable in the sense, let's say for this deployment, maximum how many parts can be unavailable. Let's say my replica count is 2. My replica count is 2. When I am updating my deployment, minimum how many parts cannot be unavailable, which means how many parts can be down during this update process? 1. Which means, will I have still one pod? This pod can be old pod or this can be new pod. That doesn't matter. You are total expecting 2 pods. Only one pod can be down. That other pod can be old pod or new pod. Which means, when I am updating, if maximum unavailable is 1, this pod may go down. You have this pod. Maybe that is old pod. Then I will get a new pod. Once this new pod is there, then can this pod goes down, still you have one pod and other pod gets created. Is it like a one by one like that? Yes. And what do you mean by this max surge? What do you mean by this max surge? How many new pods can be created over the current pods? How many new pods can be created over the current, expected replicas? Over expected replicas, how many new pods can be created? But is it always like this? 1 1? Can I give any value here? Let's say my total replicas is 4. My total replicas is 4. Can I say max unavailable as 2 also? Which means 2 parts can be down. Maybe rest of the other 2 parts can be available. That can be new parts or old parts. Can I go 2 by 2 also if required? Maximum unavailable as 2, like this. So will I able to control the behavior of rolling updates using these options? Max unavailable, max surge. And what is this min ready seconds? What is this min ready seconds? Now, in this phase, how many seconds it will wait before it goes to the next phase? In this phase, how many seconds it will wait? Once the new pod is created, if I say minimum ready seconds as 30, will it wait 30 seconds before it goes to this phase and terminate the old pod? Why that is important? Why that is important? Because does the container in this pod will take some time? Your application may take some time to fully ready. The moment you start your Tomcat process, do you think your application will be immediately available to serve your traffic? So it may take some time. So can I wait for some time so that this container will be completely ready, so that the next phase it can go to this next phase, it will delete the old pod? By that time, this new pod will be ready. That container will be ready. Your application is ready. So again, if your container is taking some time, your application is taking some time, instead of 30 seconds, can I give 60 seconds, 120 seconds also based on your requirement? Yes. So even though I don't mention this is the strategy, but is it going to wait any time like 30 seconds like that? No. So I can customize this behavior using this strategy called rolling update. Now let me, guys, in detail documentation is there, but you need to understand the concepts. So in the Kubernetes, in kubernetes.io, that website, there is a detailed document. What is deployment, how it works, what is the deployment strategy, and how it works. And here also they have detailedly mentioned what is max surge, max unavailable, max surge, max surge, max unavailable. So if you see max surge, so what do you mean by that max surge, right? So max surge will create, it will calculate the number of expected parts over the current parts. Now similarly you have a max unavailable, max unavailable. Max unavailable. What do you mean by this max unavailable? If you see, when you are updating the pods, when you are updating the pods, so this max unavailable option, this max unavailable option, it's an optional field again. It's an optional field. It is not mandatory. Specified that maximum number of pods that can be unavailable during the process, updating process. That value can be absolute number like 1, 2, 3, and can I give in the percentages also like 20%, 30%, 40% against the current number of replicas. Percentages also it is allowed. Now surge, max surge, again it's an optional field. The maximum number of pods that can be created over the desired number of pods, that can be created over the desired number of pods, right? The new pods. So these are optional fields you can use based on your customization. Now let me define that strategy type. Now what type of strategy now I want to use? Rolling update, something like this. Rolling update, something like this. Rolling update. You should be caps here. Now again you have an option called rolling update here. Again something like this, rolling update. So here can I define that max surge, max unavailable, max unavailable, max unavailable, something like this. Something like this, max unavailable. I can say 1, something like this. Max surge, max surge, absolute number. Can I give in percentage also? 50%, 50% like this. What do you mean by 50%? Now currently how many replicas we are expecting? 2 replicas. So max unavailable is 50%, which means how many percentages of parts cannot be available? Like 1. If there are 4, 50% in the sense 2. So I can give in the numbers or percentages also. But again, when this will be applicable, guys? This will be applicable when you are creating a pods, it is applicable. I mean to say when you are creating a deployment, is this applicable? No. Only update process, when you are updating. When you are updating. Now here can I give one more field called min ready seconds? Min ready seconds, minimum ready seconds, like 30, 60, like that, based on your requirement. Now let me create existing deployment. I want to demonstrate from scratch again. Let me delete existing deployment. The current deployment is created using which deployment strategy? The current deployment is created using which deployment strategy? Whatever I already have, that is deployed using recreate. So let me delete this. I will deploy from scratch so that you can understand again. Guys, can I update this one also without deleting also? Can I update from recreate to rolling update also? If I apply that, again it will update it from recreate to rolling update, but I thought of showing from scratch, so that's why I'm deleting. Now I don't have anything. I don't have anything as of now. Let me apply. Let me apply this. Revision history, revision. There is a typo. There is a typo error. Revision. Revision history limit. So there was a typo. Now, when we are creating for the first time, do you see both parts or all the parts created at same time when you are creating for the first time? Yes. Now kubectl rollout history, kubectl rollout history deployment. This is my deployment name. So I deleted completely. So what is the revision? How many revisions I have? Kubectl rollout history deployment name -n test -ns rollout history. There is a typo error. So how many revisions I have? Because I just deleted and recreated first revision. Now let me do this now. Let me do the same process. What do you mean? I want to update my application now. I want to update my application. Let me show that again, or maybe let me connect to same machine, my master machine where I have a kubectl. I'll connect. From this one also I'll connect to same machine so that you can understand what is happening in the background. Now let me connect to one more tab also. So here let me execute watch kubectl get ep endpoints of that service. I can see this. Currently there are these pods, kind of a revision one, first revision, kubectl get pods -wide. You can use -n test -ns. Currently there are two pods. Now I am able to access my application also. I am able to access my application also. This one, because my application is running. My application is running. I am able to access this application. Now let's update my deployment now. Again, I am updating my manifest. I am updating my manifest. Now let's say instead of this image, there is a new image which I want to deploy. Watch command I have not used. Okay, let me use watch command here. Okay, now I am using watch for both. That's fine. Thanks for reminding. Now let me use different image now. Let's say instead of this image, I want to deploy another image. Guys, one more important point. For some reason, the new parts are not getting created. Is it going to completely terminate all your parts, old parts? For some reason, your new parts are in a pending state or a failed state, crash loop backup. Do you think all of your old parts gets deleted? No. Still, you will have that max unavailable if it is 1, which means do we still have one more part available? The current replicas is 2. You are saying max unavailable as 1. The new pod is failed. New pod is failed to come up. Do we still have at least one pod, another old pod still available? Unless until your new pods in a ready state, running state, is it going to terminate that one of the old pod which is still available? No. That is also one more important thing. Now let me give some tag. Now let me give 16. Tag as 16. Now let me apply kubectl apply this one. Here I can use this -record option. -record equals to true. Record 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 true. Now you observe here, and here when I am updating. If you see, do you see? Is it still having one old pod? Max unavailable is 1, so it has terminated one old pod. Do we still have one more new pod? Is my application is still accessible? Now it has created Can I see total 3 endpoints here? Because these 2 new pod endpoints also showing here. Now is request is going to any one of those 3 pods? Any one of those 3 pods? Yes. But after 30 seconds, as per the minimum ready second, is it going to terminate this old pod, whatever it is still available, because it is running, it is ready? Now do you see one of the old pod is getting terminated? This way, will I able to achieve zero downtime deployments using deployment in Kubernetes with a deployment strategy, rolling update? Now, if I see the history, since I use that option -- record true while executing this command, can I see the change cause also? What caused this change revision to? If I want to see the more details about that revision, can I use this option -revision option? Revision, that number. Can I see the part template of that revision? What was the part template of that revision? Yes. Now, since it is revision history, I have made it, revision history as 5, I am updating another image. Guys, when you are doing, you need to make sure these images are there in your registry. Without having these images, these tags in your registry, it will throw that image full error, right? Now let me apply again. Now if you see again, do I have a downtime when I am updating new? Again, new image I am getting updated. If you see, I have at least one endpoint, one pod, that old pod. I don't have any downtime. When I roll back also, same behavior. If you see, still I have one old pod. Once that minimum ready seconds is crossed, then only the old pod gets terminated. Now do you see the old pod got terminated now? So service is doing its job, deployment is doing its job, pod is managing your container. So are you clear how all these things are interrelated? Now, since I have changed the deployment, that revision history as 5, can I see now? Can I see third revision also, 1, 2, 3 also? Can I see 1, 2, 3 also? Because I have increased the revision history limit. Is everyone clear? What is deployment? Deployment with strategy recreate. What is rollback? What is history? What is this one? Okay. Now, which one we will use again in the actual applications? Which one we will use again? Do we always use deployment, or do we always go with some other thing? That depends on your use case again, your requirement again, whatever you want to do. Now, there is another concept altogether. Did you guys heard about blue-green deployments? Canary deployments. This is altogether another concept. Does Kubernetes have a strategy called blue-green, strategy called canary, the way we have a recreate and rolling update? Do we have a direct strategy like this, blue-green or canary? No. But if required, can I do this blue-green deployments or canary deployments also in Kubernetes using some approaches, using some approaches? Yes. So what is the problem with the rolling update? Why we have a blue-green deployments? What is the problem with rolling update? Even though without downtime, you are able to deploy your application. But why blue-green? What is the problem with rolling update? Let me tell you one thing. You are doing rolling update deployments. Let's say in the latest code, there are some bugs, there are some defects. before you identify that issues, before you identified that issues, and before you roll back that application, does already end users will start facing the issues? Are you stopping end user traffic to the new pods in the rolling update strategy? Are you stopping end user traffic to the new pods in the rolling update strategy? No. So before you identify there is a issues in the new code, before you realize and before you roll back, does end users will start facing or experiencing those issues or defects? Yes. But instead of that, can I follow blue green approach? What is blue, what is green, what is this blue green approach? We will discuss in a separate class. Can I follow these blue green approaches in the normal virtualized machines also, guys? Forget about Docker, forget about containers. Will I able to do these blue green deployments in a virtualized deployment or traditional deployment also? Yes. So this is one deployment strategy, blue green deployment. Can I do that blue green deployments in Kubernetes also? Yes. So what is this blue green? What is this canary? I will explain later in the next class, that is tomorrow's class. But can I directly use strategy as blue green the way I am using recreate and rolling update in my manifest? If I say blue green, does Kubernetes can understand and use that? No. So this is a different concept altogether that I will explain in a tomorrow session. What is this blue green? What is this canary? Right? How it works? We will discuss this in a tomorrow session. Thank you, guys. That's it for today. Try to practice whatever has been discussed in today's class. I'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow also we have a class. Don't miss tomorrow session. Not, I say don't miss any session. Typically I say don't miss any session. Tomorrow session is also little important so that you can understand what is that blue green, what is that canary. These type of questions are being asked in the interviews, and you are going to follow these type of deployment strategies in your project also. Okay. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.